Have you ever discovered that the person trying to destroy your career had no clue you were the one holding the real power all along? Yeah, that happened to me. And let me tell you, nothing in life prepares you for a moment like that. But before I tell you exactly how it all went down, do me a favor, hit that like button, leave a comment, and make sure you subscribe. Because this story, it's one you're not going to forget. My name is Daniel Walker. I've never been the flashy guy in the office. I'm not the one bragging about my titles, or flexing my LinkedIn achievements, or fighting for the spotlight in meetings. Nah, I'm the guy who builds quietly, who solves problems nobody even knows exist, who shows up early, stays late, and makes sure things don't fall apart. For the past 5 years, I've worked as a senior software engineer at a tech startup here in Austin, Texas. This wasn't just a job for me, it was a second home. I helped build our fraud detection system from scratch, the one that basically saved this company millions of dollars and became the centerpiece of our upcoming acquisition. But, of course, none of that mattered to the new guy. It's funny. You can dedicate years of your life to a company, pour everything into it, build systems, fix crises, work weekends, and yet all it takes is one person with the right title and the wrong intentions to try and erase you from everything you've created. I always believed the real danger in corporate life wasn't the loud ones, the ones who yell in meetings or slam their fists on the table. No, it's the quiet manipulators, the ones who smile in your face while quietly pulling the rug from under your feet. And unfortunately, our company had just hired one. Andrew Mitchell, brand new Chief Operations Officer. Tall, sharp suit, perfect hair, MBA from Stanford. Walked into the office like he owned the air everyone breathed. From the moment he arrived, you could feel the shift. You know that feeling when the temperature in the room changes, but nobody's willing to say it out loud? Yeah, that. At first I told myself, don't jump to conclusions, Daniel. Maybe he's just ambitious. I mean, change isn't always bad, right? But oh, how wrong I was. You see, I didn't know it yet, but Andrew wasn't here to collaborate. He was here to conquer, and I was target number 1 on his list. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. My parents were middle-class folks from a small town in Oklahoma. My dad was a mechanic. My mom worked nights at a hospital. Growing up, I learned that if you wanted something in life, no one was going to hand it to you. You had to build it, brick by brick, line by line. That's exactly how I approached my career. 5 years ago, when I joined this company, it was nothing more than a scrappy little startup. No funding, no reputation. Just 5 guys sitting in a co-working space, chasing a dream with broken laptops and way too much caffeine. I wasn't even supposed to be there. My job offer came after a chance conversation at a local tech meetup. The founder, Ethan, was explaining a problem with their fraud detection systems, and I casually threw out a solution. 2 days later, I had a job offer in my inbox. Since then, I've poured everything I had into this place. I built the backbone of our fraud detection software. I coded entire modules that kept banks from losing millions. I worked 70-hour weeks, skipped holidays, missed birthdays, not because anyone forced me to, but because I believed in what we were building. And yeah, I wasn't the loudest in the room. I never had to be. I believed my work spoke louder than any meeting ever could. But the thing about being the quiet one is people start assuming you're easy to push around, easy to overlook, easy to replace. That's the mistake Andrew made. He walked in like every corporate climber I've ever seen, all buzzwords and bravado. He started introducing himself like he was the messiah of operational excellence. Change is coming, he said in his very first company-wide meeting, and we're going to take this company to the next level. His smile was so perfect as it felt manufactured. At first, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. I've seen new leadership come and go. Some are arrogant but competent. Others are just arrogant. But soon enough, it became crystal clear which one Andrew was. He didn't ask questions, not about the systems, not about the people, not about how things actually worked. Nah. He came in with one mission: look important, sound impressive, and cut whoever stood in the way of his climb to the top. And guess who didn't fit into his little vision board? Yeah, me. It didn't take long for Andrew's real colors to show. The first week, he was all smiles, handshakes, coffee chats, saying things like, "We're all a family here," The usual corporate nonsense, but anyone with half a brain could feel it. This guy wasn't here to build anything. He was here to take. You could see it in how he talked. Every sentence was a sales pitch. Every meeting was a performance. He loved to throw around phrases like synergy, streamline operations, and drive efficiency. But when it came to actually understanding how this company worked, crickets. He didn't ask. He didn't listen. He didn't care. And the worst part? People bought it. Upper management. The ones who didn't know the guts of how this company really functioned, ate it up like it was gospel. Andrew started showing up to meetings where he wasn't even needed, sitting in on engineering stand-ups, finance check-ins, marketing syncs, nodding, smiling, pretending to take notes, then leaving with that same smug look, like he just unlocked the secret to life. But here's the kicker. Not once did he ask me about the very system that kept this company afloat, the fraud detection software, my software, the product that had literally saved us from bankruptcy 2 years ago. Instead, he started doing something else, something subtle. He began reassigning credit. In one meeting with the acquisition team, I heard him say, "Our fraud detection capabilities are something we've been refining over the last few months, under my operational leadership." Excuse me, last few months under your leadership? I sat there staring at him like, "Bro, the code you're bragging about has my blood, sweat, and sanity in every single line." But he kept going, kept smiling, kept selling a story that didn't belong to him. At first, I brushed it off, thought maybe it was just corporate theater. Maybe he was just trying to look good to the investors. No big deal. Right? Wrong. Because then, the cuts started. First, it was the customer support team. Too bloated, he said. Then a few junior engineers, not aligned with the company's future vision. It didn't matter how long you'd been here. Didn't matter what you'd contributed. If you weren't part of Andrew's personal fan club, you were disposable. And I started realizing something. I was next. You know that feeling when you start noticing small things, things that don't quite add up? Yeah, that's exactly how it started. It wasn't some grand announcement. It wasn't a big blowout. No, it was death by 1,000 paper cuts. First, it was an invitation, or rather, the lack of one. A weekly leadership sync I'd always been part of suddenly disappeared from my calendar. I thought maybe it was a mistake, calendar glitch, whatever. So I asked Andrew's assistant, "Hey, I think there's a mix-up. I don't see the leadership meeting on my calendar this week." She gave me this tight little smile and said, "Oh, Andrew said it wasn't necessary for you this time." Huh, not necessary. Okay, then 2 days later, I noticed something even weirder. My access to one of the core financial dashboards, the one that pulled fraud metrics for our major clients, was revoked. Just gone, locked out. I pinged IT. "Hey guys, looks like I lost access to the fraud metrics dashboard. Can you check?" Their response, "Yeah, looks like the request came from an executive override. Should be intentional." Intentional by who? Spoiler alert. It wasn't hard to guess. That sinking feeling in my gut started turning into something sharper, heavier. Then came the conversations in the hallway. You know the ones, where people stop talking the second you walk by. Eyes drop, smiles get awkward. I even caught a junior engineer and someone I mentored for years, avoiding eye contact like I was contagious. It hit me. Hard. I've seen this before. I've watched enough corporate takeovers to recognize the pattern. When someone wants you gone, they don't fire you outright. No, that's too obvious, too messy. They isolate you. They cut you off from information, from meetings, from conversations, from relevance. Until one day when they finally drop the axe, nobody's surprised. Because by then, they've already rewritten the story in everyone's head. That you were disengaged, ineffective, unnecessary. And the worst part? I could feel it working. Slowly, quietly, like smoke filling a room before anyone notices there's a fire. It's crazy how fast someone can go from shaking your hand to pretending you don't exist. At this point, Andrew didn't even bother hiding it anymore. The little smirks, the passive-aggressive comments in meetings, the "Daniel, let's not waste time on that right now," or the classic, "Yeah, that's not really relevant to where the company is headed." Like I was invisible, like the years I spent building the very thing that was funding his fat salary didn't even matter. I remember walking into a strategy meeting one afternoon, one that, by the way, I was still technically supposed to be part of, and the second I sat down, Andrew looked up and said in front of everyone, "Oh, I didn't realize you were on this invite." I just stared at him, dead in the eye, didn't even blink. But inside, oh, I felt it. That mix of rage and disbelief. The kind that makes your hands shake, but you force yourself to keep them still, because they want you to snap. They want you to lose it, to prove their narrative right. So I smiled, leaned back in my chair, and stayed. But if you're sitting there thinking, "Man, this is wild," trust me, it gets so much worse. And hey, if you're enjoying this story so far, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now, because what's coming next, you are not ready for it. Anyway, the final straw. It wasn't even subtle. Andrew held this department-wide presentation, all hands on deck, talking about the future of operational excellence. You know, corporate nonsense dressed up in pretty slides. And right there in front of everyone, he pulled up a slide titled Legacy Systems and Roadblocks to Growth. Guess what was listed? My entire fraud detection system. These systems, he said, while helpful in the past, no longer serve the scale we are moving towards. We'll be transitioning to newer, more agile solutions under my guidance. Under his guidance, the same system that saved the company from collapse, the same system that closed the deal with our biggest client last year, the same system I designed, built, and maintained. At that point, it wasn't just a professional hit, it was personal. That's when I knew this wasn't just politics, this was war. See, this wasn't just any project. The fraud detection system I built wasn't some side tool or a little plug-in sitting quietly in the background. This thing was the crown jewel of the company, the engine, the reason we were even sitting at acquisition talks with one of the biggest financial tech giants in the country. Without it, this company wouldn't be worth half of what it was. I designed it from the ground up, years of coding, testing, fixing, refining, long nights, missed holidays, debugging lines of code until my eyes felt like sandpaper. All of that is for this, a tool that could detect fraudulent activity in milliseconds, a tool that saved banks millions and kept thousands of innocent people from getting their accounts wiped. And now this company was weeks away from being acquired, a buyout that would turn a lot of folks in the office into millionaires overnight, me included. Well, that's what I thought. You see, part of that acquisition meant the new company would do a full audit of every department, every system, every process, to decide what stays and what gets scrapped. And guess who was in charge of presenting that? Yeah, Andrew, the man who didn't write a single line of code, the man who wouldn't know a machine learning model if it hit him in the face, the man who was now suddenly leading the innovation roadmap. It was a joke, a really bad one. But the thing that really made my stomach turn was realizing how intentional it all was. Andrew wasn't just trying to look good, he was trying to erase me, to take my work, slap his name on it, present it as his success to the buyers, and then quietly push me out the door right after. I could feel it coming, like a storm you smell before you even see the clouds. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, but I knew. The knife was coming. You ever have one of those moments where your gut tells you something's wrong but you don't have the proof yet? Yeah, that was me. It started with something small. I logged into our internal project management tool one morning and noticed my permissions were different. At first I thought it was a glitch. Maybe IT was rolling out some update, but then I realized I couldn't access the back-end repository for the fraud detection system. You know, the very system I built, locked out. No warning, no explanation. My stomach dropped. I reached out to IT immediately. Hey, looks like my repo access got revoked accidentally. Can you fix that? Their response? Actually, Daniel, it wasn't an accident. It came from an executive-level request. I stared at the screen. Executive level. And I didn't need anyone to spell it out for me. Andrew. Still, I tried to keep calm. Maybe it's just a mistake. Maybe they're running an audit. Maybe I'm overthinking it. But then came the email. A calendar notification. Meeting operational alignment mandatory. No subject, no agenda. Just a meeting with Andrew. In conference room 3B. Friday at 4 p.m. The timing wasn't lost on me either. Friday, late afternoon, classic move. The kind of meeting you set when you don't want anyone around to hear what's about to go down. I showed up early, walked past the glass walls of the conference room, and noticed something strange. Andrew was already inside, talking on the phone. Door cracked open, but just enough for me to hear. I know I shouldn't have listened, but then again, sometimes life hands you the truth whether you ask for it or not. I stood there, frozen. At first, I told myself, Daniel, walk away. You don't need to hear this. But something in my gut told me to stay. Andrew's voice was low, but sharp, calculated. The kind of tone people use when they think no one's listening. Yeah, it's basically done, he said. The system? Oh yeah. I'll present it as my initiative. No one's going to question it. The engineer, Daniel? He won't be a problem. He's, let's just say, not aligned with the future direction. My chest tightened. My ears were ringing, but my brain was processing every single word. Then he said it. Yeah, after the acquisition paperwork is signed, we're letting him go. Clean cut. New leadership structure. No drama. Silence. Then laughter. His laughter. The kind of arrogant, smug laugh that hits you harder than any slap to the face. Look, he's good at what he does, sure. But come on, he's not leadership material. Never was. Just a coder, quiet, comfortable, replaceable. Replaceable. That word hit me like a punch to the gut. Replaceable. After everything. After the years I gave to this company. After the sleepless nights. After the literal millions my system saved. I could feel my hands trembling. My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. But I didn't move, I didn't speak. I didn't even breathe too loud, because then the final dagger. And honestly, once I present this as my innovation, the buyers will have no reason to even question the transition. Smooth as butter. He won't see it coming. Oh, but that's where you're wrong, Andrew. Because the part he didn't know, the part that was going to change everything, was that I wasn't just some engineer. I was something else entirely. Something that would flip this entire game on its head, but not yet. Not yet. I stood there, every muscle in my body stiff, like I was carved out of stone. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from this cold, sharp, boiling rage sitting in my chest. No, listen, Andrew continued, his tone getting even cockier. Once the papers are signed, I'll push him out under the New Culture Initiative. You know the drill, restructure, reposition, whatever buzzword makes it clean. HR's already drafting the package, one meeting done. The way he said it, like I was a broken office chair he was tossing in the dumpster, then another punch. And, honestly, the buyers are looking at the fraud detection platform as the centerpiece of the deal. They think it's a brilliant innovation on my part. Once this is locked in, I'm golden. I had to press my hand against the wall to steady myself. Oh, yeah. He's clueless. Andrew laughed again. He has no idea what's happening around him. Quiet types never do, they just code. They don't play the real game. The real game. Oh. Andrew had no idea how wrong he was, because here's what he didn't know. And honestly, what no one in that building knew. 6 months ago, when the founder of the company, Ethan, quietly decided to step away, he didn't sell his shares to Andrew. He didn't sell them to the board. He sold them to me. 51%. Majority ownership. In complete silence. Through a private holding agreement, no fanfare, no announcement. Just a simple transfer, sealed, signed, filed. Nobody knew. Not HR, not the board, not even my closest co-workers. I didn't want the spotlight. I never did. I didn't want to be the boss. I just wanted to make sure the company I bled for, the system I built, wouldn't fall into the wrong hands. But now, the wrong hands were moving fast, and they were about to learn a very painful lesson. Because if Andrew thought I was just some quiet little coder, he was about to find out I owned the whole damn table he was trying to flip. As I walked away from that door, something inside me shifted. That shaky, boiling rage, gone, replaced with something colder, sharper, like flipping a switch from fight or flight to watch and dismantle. Because now, I wasn't panicking. I was planning. You see, when Ethan offered me his shares 6 months ago, I didn't hesitate. He was retiring, tired of the startup grind. And he told me straight up, "Daniel, you're the only person I trust to keep this company in the right hands." It wasn't a gift. I paid for it. Every last dollar of my inheritance from my grandfather, the man who taught me everything about hard work, loyalty, and never letting snakes win. At the time, I didn't tell anyone, didn't need to. I didn't care about titles, didn't care about corner offices or fancy nameplates. I just wanted to build, to solve problems, to create. But now, now that little quiet move I made was about to become the sharpest weapon in my arsenal. Because what Andrew didn't know, what the board didn't know, what literally no one in that building knew, was that nothing, not a single decision, not a single restructure, not a single demotion, not even the sale of this company, could happen without my signature. I held the majority, 51%, more than the board, more than the investors, more than anyone. And suddenly, every smirk, every fake smile, every "he's replaceable," Andrew had tossed my way, turned from insults into comedy. But here's the thing. I didn't want revenge. Not yet. No. I wanted him to walk straight into it, eyes closed, smiling, thinking he had already won. I wanted him to build the perfect little trap for himself, thinking it was for me. And then, when he tried to spring it, I'd be the one holding the rope. That weekend, I didn't sleep much. Not because I was stressed, oh no. Because my brain was moving at 200 miles per hour, calculating, planning, preparing. I spent hours reviewing every document tied to my ownership, pulled up the shareholder agreements, the operating contracts, the bylaws, every single page and every single clause, reminding myself just how much power sat quietly in my hands. And you know what's wild? The entire time, Andrew was walking around the office like a king, smiling, nodding, throwing little jabs in meetings, strutting like he'd already won. I'd pass him in the hallway and he wouldn't even make eye contact anymore, like I didn't exist. And let me tell you, I let him. I let him believe that. Because the more comfortable he got, the harder the fall was going to be. Every time he sent an email excluding me, screenshot. Every time my permissions were revoked, logged. Every time I was left out of client calls, documented. Receipts. Stacks and stacks of receipts. Because men like Andrew, they don't learn through warnings, they don't learn through conversations, they only learn through consequences. But you know what? I gotta ask, has anything like this ever happened to you? If someone ever tried to steal your work and your ideas or push you out of something you built, hit that like button right now. Because trust me, you're gonna love how this ends. Anyway, by Monday morning. Andrew had no idea I was walking into the building not as Daniel the engineer, but as Daniel, the man who owned his entire future. But the best part? I still wasn't going to say a word, not yet. Because the board meeting, the one where Andrew planned to officially unveil his new vision for the company, including cutting my role entirely, was scheduled for Friday. And between now and then, I was going to let him dig that hole as deep as he possibly could. The thing about silence is that it messes with the loud ones the most. By Wednesday, the whispers were everywhere. You could feel it in the air, like that eerie calm before a thunderstorm. People walking a little faster through the halls, doors closing just a little too quietly. Conversations dropping to a whisper the second I walked by. They knew something was coming. They just didn't know what. And Andrew? Oh, Andrew was thriving, strutting around the office like a man who'd already won the lottery. His confidence wasn't just high, it was nuclear. He started holding private meetings with department heads, the kind where people walk in with nervous faces and walk out looking like they just signed a deal with the devil. I passed the marketing director in the hallway, a guy I'd worked with for years, and even he avoided eye contact, shoulders tight, face pale. Yup, I thought, he's making moves, cutting deals, rewriting narratives. And me? Oh. I stayed quiet, kept my head down, pretended like I didn't notice the access I'd lost, or the emails I wasn't copied on, or the sudden cancellations of meetings I was supposed to lead. Let him think he was winning, because that Friday morning, that was the day, the board meeting, the big one, the one where Andrew would present his operational excellence plan, the one where he'd show off the fraud detection system, my system, as his personal innovation, the cornerstone of the acquisition deal, and the one where, right at the peak of his little victory speech, everything would come crashing down. He didn't know it yet, but the trap he built for me had his name written all over it. Friday morning. I walked into the boardroom 15 minutes early, not because I was nervous, but because I wanted them to see me there. Calm, composed, unbothered. The room itself, pure theater, long glass table, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Austin, bottles of sparkling water lined up like soldiers, folders perfectly placed in front of each board member. I sat, quietly, at the far end of the table. Then, right on cue, Andrew walked in, confident, polished, suit pressed so sharp it could cut glass. He wasn't just walking. He was gliding, like a man about to accept his own award. "Good morning, everyone," he said, flashing that fake white smile. "I appreciate you all being here. Today, I want to present a vision for where this company is headed post-acquisition." He opened his laptop, clicked. The screen behind him lit up. Slide 1. The future of operational excellence. "As you all know," he began, "this company has done great work over the years. But to stay competitive in the next phase, we have to make bold decisions. Hard decisions." His tone was perfect, polished, manipulative. Slide 2. Graphs, numbers, buzzwords like agility, scalability, next-gen infrastructure. Then slide 3. "At the center of our innovation is our fraud detection system," Andrew said, puffing his chest. "A solution we've refined significantly in recent months. Under my operational leadership, this tool is the backbone of our acquisition appeal." I swear, I almost laughed out loud, but I didn't. I sat still, hands folded, watching. Andrew kept going. Slide 4. Leadership streamlining proposal. "As part of our transition," Andrew continued, "we've identified redundancies in our technical leadership, specifically in the engineering oversight related to legacy systems that no longer align with our future direction." And then, he said it. "Effective post-acquisition, we propose transitioning Daniel Walker's role to an external advisory capacity. His current duties will be redistributed among a more agile operational framework." He didn't even look at me when he said it. Didn't flinch, didn't blink, just moved right past it. Like removing me was just another line item on his spreadsheet. A couple of board members shifted in their chairs. One cleared his throat. Michelle, the company's head of legal, shot me a glance. Tight-lipped, expression unreadable. The air got heavy, thicker. You could almost hear people's pulses. Andrew smiled, leaned back. "That concludes my proposal," he said, folding his hands. "I believe this puts us in the strongest possible position for the acquisition." Silence, thick, suffocating. And then, every pair of eyes in that room slowly turned to me, waiting, expecting, not knowing that the real show was about to begin. The room went dead silent. Not the awkward kind of silence. No, this was the kind of silence that hits like gravity, heavy, suffocating, the kind where you can literally hear someone's heartbeat, but you don't know if it's yours or theirs. I didn't move, I just sat there, calm, quiet, hands folded, letting the tension marinate, letting Andrew soak in the false comfort that, for a brief, fleeting moment, he actually believed he'd won. A few of the board members glanced at each other, clearly uncomfortable. Michelle, she wasn't even looking at Andrew anymore. Her eyes were on me, waiting. She knew. She didn't know exactly what was about to happen, but she knew something was coming. Andrew, on the other hand, sat there smug, leaned back, fingers tapping lightly on the glass table like this was already a done deal. "Any questions?" he asked. Smooth, controlled, confident. The chairman leaned forward, cleared his throat. "Well, before we proceed with the final recommendations, we will of course need shareholder approval for any structural changes at the executive level." Andrew nodded immediately. "Absolutely. That's noted as pending in the proposal. But I'm confident that won't be an issue." He said it like it was nothing, like it was a formality, like he owned the room. That was his final mistake. I finally sat up straight, looked directly at the chairman, then at Michelle, then slowly, let my eyes drift to Andrew, and I said, in the calmest, most measured voice I've ever used in my life, "Yeah, about that." The air shifted. Andrew blinked, just once, confused. His smile faltered, just a little. "I'm afraid I can't approve that," I said. Silence. A few board members turned their heads sharply toward me. The chairman stiffened. Michelle raised an eyebrow. Andrew leaned forward. I'm sorry. What? I tilted my head, calm, unbothered. I said, "I don't approve." Andrew laughed, forced, nervous. "Daniel, with all due respect, you don't have the authority to approve or disapprove at this level. This is an operational—" I cut him off. Didn't raise my voice, didn't flinch, just reached into my folder and slid a stack of documents across the table, right to the chairman, and then to Michelle. "You should probably take a look at this." The chairman unfolded the papers. "Read the first line." His eyebrows shot up. Michelle leaned forward, scanned the document, then immediately leaned back, folding her arms. And right then, in that exact second, I watched Andrew's entire face change. Confusion to disbelief, disbelief to panic. But he didn't know yet. Not fully. Not until Michelle, cool as ice, said the words that shattered his entire reality. "It's verified. Daniel is the majority shareholder of this company." Silence. Not the heavy, suffocating kind anymore. No. This was different. This was the sound of someone's entire reality collapsing, of a man realizing, too late, that the game he thought he was winning wasn't even his to play. Andrew blinked, his mouth opened, then closed, like his brain was buffering. What do you mean, a majority shareholder?" he stammered, his voice cracking for the first time since the day he set foot in this company. I didn't rush, didn't gloat. I just leaned back, folded my hands, and looked him dead in the eye. "It means," I said calmly, "that when you were busy rehearsing your little PowerPoint, I was signing documents that made me the majority owner of this company. 6 months ago." The chairman cleared his throat, scanning the paperwork. "It's all valid. Daniel holds 51% ownership. Through Walker Holdings LLC, it's been registered since last quarter." Andrew's face turned ghost white. His hands started shaking. No, this is... No one told me. I tilted my head, almost amused. "Maybe because you never asked." The chairman sat back in his chair, hands folded. "Well, this certainly changes things." Michelle nodded, eyes sharp. "It does. Significantly." Andrew looked around the room like a drowning man looking for a lifeline. Wait, no, this is a misunderstanding. I had no idea. No one informed me of this change in ownership structure." I didn't even blink. "And that, Andrew, is exactly the problem. You never bothered to check who was actually sitting in the room before you tried to burn it down." The silence that followed was delicious. You could practically hear his heart pounding. Andrew shot up from his chair. No, this isn't... You can't... I cut him off. Calm. Controlled. "You built... What exactly? The fraud detection system? The product you pitched in that slide deck? The one I designed? The one with my name in every single line of the source code?" His mouth opened, but no words came out. "Yeah." I leaned forward now, my voice just loud enough for everyone to hear. "That's what I thought." The chairman tapped his fingers against the table. "Given this, I believe we need to reconsider the structural changes presented, effective immediately." Michelle followed. "Andrew, you are suspended from your duties pending a full ethics and leadership review." Andrew's face crumbled. "Wait, no, please. We can talk about this." I didn't know." I stood up, straightened my jacket, looked him square in the eye. "And that's exactly the problem, Andrew. You didn't know, because you never asked. You just assumed. Then, I leaned in just enough. You thought I was the quiet one, the easy one, the replaceable one. What you forgot is that I own the pen. I write the endings here, not you." And as security came to escort him out, Andrew realized something. This boardroom, this company, this game, it was never his, it was mine. When the door closed behind him, the energy in the room shifted. Gone was the tension, Gone was the weight. In its place was something else entirely. Respect. A few board members leaned back in their chairs, glancing at each other like they'd just witnessed something they would be telling stories about for years. The chairman folded his hands, nodded slowly and said, "Well, Daniel, I think it's safe to say you've earned yourself a seat at every table going forward." I didn't smile. I didn't need to. I just nodded once, firm, clear. "I'm not here to play games," I said. "I'm here to make sure this company runs with integrity. From this day forward, no more smoke, no more mirrors, no more people getting steamrolled because they were too quiet." Michelle grinned. "I think we can all agree. It's a new day." As I walked out of that boardroom, the hallway felt different. People weren't avoiding eye contact anymore, they were watching. Some with smiles, some with wide eyes, some with that subtle, respectful nod, the one that says, "Damn, I didn't know, but I know now." And Andrew, he vanished. No goodbye email, no farewell party, not even a LinkedIn update. He simply disappeared, like a bad chapter finally closed. In the days that followed, the company felt lighter, freer. Meetings actually felt like collaboration, not landmines. People started speaking up again. Ideas flowed, and most importantly, the culture shifted. Because here's the truth. Power isn't about titles. It's not about who talks the loudest or who struts the hardest. Power, real power, is knowing who you are, knowing what you've built, and knowing, Jan, that no one, and no matter how polished, how smooth, how manipulative, can take that away from you. You see, when they try to write you out of the story, but forget that you're the one holding the pen, yeah, game over. And hey, if you love this story as much as I love telling it, make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell me in the comments what city you're watching this from. I'd love to see how far this message travels because, trust me, this won't be the last time someone tries to underestimate the quiet one. But they should have learned by now. The quiet ones own everything.